Hey folks, this is Kalani. We're over on the 6.2 PTR and the sets have been released, so we could happily pick them up and we can try them out. We're going to do Beast Mastery first, and right now, with the set on, we can happily no longer reset Bestial Wrath, which makes me a very sad panda, but we can extend the duration of Focus Fire, and instead of Bestial Wrath summoning a new pet to attack, Focus Fire now summons a new pet to attack. So, I mean, not much difference there on the 4 set, just the 2 set no longer being able to reset Bestial Wrath. Kinda poopy, but more Focus Fire, which might be a lot better, maybe less RNG, but we'll get into the nitty gritty in a little while, because, yeah, some of it could get quite complicated, but we'll have to see. We can't really test the 4 set right now. I'll show you why. We'll get a stack of Frenzy. Hopefully. There we go. We'll pull the pet back. Auto shot, focus fire. We've got the boar, except it doesn't really seem to have enough hit chance. It just can't hit. Every single swing is a miss, so obviously it's doing 0 damage. But you can see it attacks pretty fast, and some of those attacks seem to be a double attack. So there's potential there, definite potential there, for it to be a large DPS increase on single target. But for now, remember that Felboar isn't doing diddly squat, so just bear that in mind. The setup that I'm running is exactly the same as my setup on live, so I'm running Dire Beast for a single target, we've got Barrage, Stampede, Adaptation, and then the rest doesn't really matter. Glyphs don't really matter for DPS. And there's one last thing, actually. I've got a new trinket. This is a class trinket, and it's spec specific. So, if I swap to Marksman, this trinket swaps with me. But for Bestial, or rather for Beast Mastery, Bestial Wrath now lasts an additional 30 seconds on your pet, so that's 40 seconds up from 10. And the damage increase is 12% extra for 32 instead of 20. So, people might say, 12% damage increase? That's not so great. But remember, you've gone from 10 seconds to 40 seconds, which, you know, that duration is pretty huge. It's basically when they doubled Stampede. It's like, oh hey, this isn't doing enough, so we doubled it, and suddenly people wonder why Stampede is OP. But 40 seconds of 12% takes it up to a very nice figure of 32%. And that means that on a 60-second cooldown, your pet is only going to be out of Bestial Wrath for 20 seconds. Which is kind of ridiculous when you think of things, but let's have a look at how things are shaping up. We'll get into position, so we're only hitting one of these dummies. Don't want a barrage to pad our meters too much, we want single target. So, we're going to start with a potion, because potions are always good. Into Stampede, Bestial Wrath, Kill Command, and Barrage. We'll summon Dire Beast at some point, and Focus Fire is kind of interesting, because while we can't fully test it because the pet isn't doing any damage, if you think about it, that Felboar is going to do the same damage, hopefully. I mean, the set bonus doesn't say anything about it, but is going to do the same damage at 1 stack and 5 stacks. So we'd want to get 1 stack active as quickly as possible to get that Felboar up. The 2 set lets us extend the duration of the Focus Fire, basically for as long as we want, as long as we have the focus to do so. But when we get to the point where we have 5 focus stacks, 5 frenzy stacks, to then trigger a 5 stack Focus Fire, if we still have that 1 stack Focus Fire active, we'll need to get rid of it. So one way to do this could be to add a macro for Focus Fire to cancel Aura, Focus Fire, and then cast Focus Fire again. If you do that, you'll need to be very careful, because every time you press that button, it's going to get rid of your Focus Fire. So be very careful if you do that. But the idea is to get 1 stack Focus Fire as quickly as possible, and then when we get 5 stacks of Frenzy, which will hopefully happen, then we'll cancel it and do the new Focus Fire. One thing that I have had happen while testing this, and one thing that I think is going to be kind of frustrating to deal with, is that if your Frenzy stacks are going to fall off, I'm not entirely sure what the better option is, because if you've got 2 stacks of a Focus Fire and you've got 2 stacks Frenzy which are about to fall off, I don't see any reason to get rid of your Focus Fire for the new Focus Fire if the duration is higher than the 20 seconds, which it can be. So it's going to be a lot of decision making here, and it's going to be a lot of very, very quick decision making. So we could see a lot of difference between the hunters who can actually manage their Focus Fire properly. But we'll just give this a go. So we got a Focus Fire up, and during Bestial Wrath, all the arcane shots you could throw out there are pretty ridiculous. You can end up with a huge duration on your Focus Fire. But I'm wondering how important that is going to be. I mean, right now, I don't really care about throwing out too many arcane shots because we're already at a 4 stack. We're going to have to get rid of that as soon as it hits 5 stacks. I'm just hoping it does hit 5 stacks. We'll go for 4 stacks. So, I mean, at the moment, if that Fellbore was doing damage, we'd be well over 50k. You'd hope, at least. I'm also wondering if during Bestial Wrath you should focus on arcane shots as opposed to barrages. But see here, this is a frustrating position because I'm wondering what's the DPS loss for actually consuming your frenzy stacks while you still have Focus Fire. Because if you have a 5 stacked Focus Fire and 5 frenzy stacks, surely the DPS increase there is to try and extend your Focus Fire as long as possible, because your pet is going to be attacking so much faster, and you already have a 5 stack Focus Fire, so you're not going to gain anything by consuming it. You're actually going to lose quite a bit by consuming it. So we're going to have to run a lot of numbers on this. This is going to be crunch time, essentially, and Sims are gonna tell the difference here. So we have a 5 stack Focus Fire right now, I believe. It's either 5 or 4. I'm wondering if 4 is even going to be a DPS loss to use it. But it ran out anyway. I guess... At that point, at 5 stack Focus Fire and 5 Frenzy stacks, does Arcane Shot become more important than Barrage, potentially? It's interesting. I'm actually really excited to see how this pans out, because there are a lot of different things here which could change the flow of your rotation. You could have to prioritize different things depending on how many Focus Fire stacks you have, how many Frenzy stacks you currently have, but keeping this priority with Barrage up there means that Focus Fire is going to be falling off a lot more than it potentially could be. But I've tried it previously with trying to Arcane Shot more to keep Focus Fire up, and it seems to be a DPS loss over Barrage. So as long as you don't get screwed over by RNG, I think it actually is going to be really, really easy to keep Focus Fire up 100% without prioritizing your Arcane Shot too much. But, I mean, I just can't see consuming these stacks to be a DPS increase. I guess it fully depends on how much damage Barrage is bringing to the table, but keeping those stacks up a little bit longer is potentially what's going to be the difference. Like right now, the difference between a good hunter and an okay hunter is when they use Focus Fire. So I'm guessing that's going to be the deciding factor for this tier as well. When you use Focus Fire, when you consume your stacks of Frenzy, and basically how everything turns out. Things are a lot less RNG reliant, I would say, simply because we're not resetting Bestial Wrath this time around. So it's not RNG upon RNG. It's just the single RNG of does your pet get Frenzy? If your pet gets Frenzy, fantastic, you've got some DPS. It's not a case of does your pet get Frenzy and have you been resetting your Bestial Wrath? So I don't know. I'm excited to see how this all turns out. As I say, maintained 40k for most of this little practice run. That's with the Fellball not doing any damage whatsoever. It's been up pretty much constantly. It seems to attack pretty fast, so we'll have to see what kind of damage that brings. If that brings anything close to what the current pet does when you summon Bestial Wrath in the current tier, then that's easily above 40k. At the start, easily above 50k for the first minute or two. So I'm really, really excited to see how this is shaping up. It's fantastic. I think Beast Mastery is actually going to be really powerful once again, which is kind of frustrating because I had hoped that we might see a little bit of play from Marksman, but Marksman is favoured a little bit in some of the fights due to cleaving, due to ads, and things like that. So obviously single target, things are looking very good, but if things go to 2 target, Marksman may poke ahead. We'll have to see, but next time we'll look at either Marksman or Survival. If you have any questions or queries about Beast Mastery, or the other two, I guess, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to get back to you. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.